Hello, American Patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here, and for that, I am forever grateful. Wow, what a difference 24 hours makes. We are pretty much in hell at the moment as far as this administration is concerned. And as a combat veteran of the United States military, I am beyond appalled, not only by the commander-in-chief, but his entire administration and our Joint Chiefs of Staff. Tonight, we're going to discuss their failures and what you, the American patriots, need to do to counter this clown show that's taken place up in Washington, D.C. To all my brothers and sisters out there that served in the United States military, especially those of you that served in Afghanistan, let me be the first one to say, if you haven't already heard this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we're having to go through the pain and agony of what this administration has caused. One of the things that we are taught in the military, pretty much from day one, it doesn't matter what your rank is, whether you're a private or an airman, or you're a four-star general. You take responsibility for your actions. When you make a decision and it's wrong, you admit to it. You step up and you say, I got it wrong, or I'm sorry. Anything is better than silence. Because by being silent, all you're doing is pissing off the ranks. And what the Joint Chiefs of Staffs have managed to do, as well as the Commander-in-Chief, is all of those that serve under this administration and these clowns, they no longer have confidence and trust in their leaders. And that, my friends, is a crying ass shame. It doesn't get much worse than it is right this very moment in time. But I'm reminded by my brothers and sisters before me that served in Vietnam of how they felt. When it was all said and done and the hasty withdrawal was taking place and thousands more lives were being lost, and they sat back and they went, why? Why? If we're just going to allow the enemy to roll right into the South, and in this case, it was North and South Vietnam, and destroy everything that we helped build and kill everyone that supported us, what was it for? Did our brothers and sisters that paid the ultimate sacrifice do so in vain? My father was a Vietnam veteran, as well as several other family members. And I've heard their stories, and I've seen the pain in their voices and in their eyes as they talk about how they felt when it was all said and done. And one thing that a Vietnam vet will tell you is if we don't educate ourselves on history, we're bound to repeat it. And I'll be damned if we're not right back there again. No one, and I believe I'm speaking for every veteran and military service member out there, regardless of political affiliation. No one in the military and no veteran wanted us to stay anywhere in a foreign country where we're being slaughtered and or fighting indefinitely. We all wanted this to end in Afghanistan. Make no bones about that. But the way it ended will be a black stain on America for the end of time. It did not have to happen this way. It should not have happened this way. In the fact that no one, other than saying, oh, I take full responsibility, and then turning around and blaming the previous administration, that's not how it works, Joe Biden. That's not how it works, Chief of Staffs. You guys and girls in the Biden administration and up at the higher echelons of the Pentagon are a disgrace to America and a disgrace to the uniform that you wear. And you need to step aside and step down. Joe Biden needs to be removed. If he doesn't resign, then he needs to be brought up on charges for impeachment. Republicans in the House and Senate, step up to the plate, and every damn one of you need to be demanding that this administration be held accountable. Not too many people out there in the Republican Party are saying the words impeachment, and I don't understand why. This is a grievous act. It is absolutely unacceptable how we got here and what happens in the future. I'm sure many of you heard that Biden went to the microphone yet again today and spoke hollow words. And when I say hollow words, if you haven't already done so, and you can see it right here on YouTube, bring up the family members that have spoken out, that met with Joe Biden when their loved ones were returned, the 13 that recently lost their lives in Afghanistan. Listen to them. Listen to what they have to say about Joe Biden and how he had no empathy at all. And all he wanted to talk about was his son, who served in Afghanistan and passed away. I believe it was a brain tumor, brain cancer. But it was as if that was his purpose of the meeting with them, was to share his son's information. And they all say that he showed absolutely no empathy. It's like he didn't even care, wasn't concerned about their loved one. Watch that. Listen to it. Listen to the pain in their voice, in their eyes. And while you're at it, look at the video of the caskets coming off of the C-17 at Dover Air Force Base as Joe Biden and his wife Jill and other members of the administration and the military stood behind them, their hands over their heart, and watch Joe Biden's action as each casket comes off the plane. How he looks at his watch. What the hell? Leadership, good leadership. Leadership where people will follow you into the depths of hell require leaders that are competent and that can admit when they get something wrong and will actually stand and take responsibility instead of pushing the buck or passing the buck onto other people, as this administration and these Joint Chiefs of Staff seem to have no problem doing. You know, it's as if they don't remember, and in Joe's case, maybe he doesn't because of dementia setting in or whatever's happening to him mentally, but it's as if they don't remember their own words, which you can look up also right here on YouTube. Their own words of how we will not remove the troops until we have removed every single American and Afghan partner and coalition forces. Not only was that a bull-faced lie, but look, it turned the other coalition partners against us. One of our biggest allies right now is Great Britain. And they are on record saying that if Joe Biden was to ask them for help tomorrow for anything military-wise, they would tell him to go pound sand up his ass because they are beyond themselves as to how this debacle happened. So let's get right into a little bit of today's Dog and Pony Show. Joe Biden addressed the nation today for the first time since American troops fully withdrew from Afghanistan and pinned partial blame once again on former President Donald Trump for some of the chaos that unfolded during the withdrawal. Biden said the previous administration's agreement said that if we stuck to the May 1st deadline that they had signed on to leave by, the Taliban wouldn't attack any American forces. The president said during his Tuesday speech, shifting blame to negotiations Trump administrations had with the Taliban before he took office. But if we stayed, all bets were off. So we were left with a simple decision. Either follow through on the commitment made by the last administration and leave Afghanistan, or say we aren't leaving and commit another tens of thousands more troops going back to war. That was the choice, the real choice between leaving or escalating. That was very difficult to hear for many reasons. One being that you extended the deadline, you stupid son of a bitch, from May 1st to August 31st. You did that, Joe, not Trump. And when you took office, the very first thing that should have happened, and I blame your Joint Chiefs of Staff for this, is there should have been a huge effort put into place right then and there to start removing American citizens, American contractors, coalition citizens and contractors, and Afghan partners immediately while we still had control over the cities. But you didn't do that. And now none of you are willing to stand up and say, I got this wrong. Biden said that the Taliban was in its strongest military position since 2001 when he took office. The president also added that August 31st was not an arbitrary deadline to withdraw American troops, but instead it was designed to save lives. Tell that, Joe, to the families of the 13 dead American forces. Tell them, Joe. Tell them how your decisions and the decisions of your administration were done to save lives. As right this very moment, the Taliban is running around slaughtering and killing everyone that associated with America. We have people on the ground in Afghanistan right now that are texting members of Congress and the State Department saying, help me. We can't get out of here. We've tried. We tried when you were still here, and the Taliban would not let us. There's a horrible, horrible video circulating on the internet right now where they managed to get one of the Black Hawk helicopters we left behind up and flying, and they took someone, and we don't know who the person was, but someone that they claim was a traitor because he supported America, put a rope around his neck and hooked him to the cargo hook of the Black Hawk and went flying. They hung him from one of our Black Hawk helicopters. To withdraw American troops was designed to save lives. Biden said during his speech that he takes responsibility for the decision to leave Afghanistan and the issues that resulted from the choice. I take responsibility for the decision, Biden said. Now, some say we should have started mass evacuation sooner and couldn't have been done in a more orderly manner. I respectfully disagree. That's his words today. As the speech unfolded, the phrase "blame Trump" began trending on Twitter, with many prominent conservative voices expressing disapproval with Biden's attempt to shift blame once again back to Trump. Biden said Taliban was at its strongest position ever when he came into office in January, controlling more than half the country. Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce tweeted, then how is it that he insisted just a few weeks ago that the Taliban were not going to take over the country? The Taliban onslaught started coming once Joe Biden got into the White House. Trump's former acting director of national intelligence, Richard Grenell, tweeted during the speech, The Taliban knew that once Trump was out and Biden was in, they could do whatever the hell they wanted. They knew they could take over the country. They knew Joe Biden was weak. They have television too. They were able to watch everything that's happened over the past several years with America. Representative Ronnie Jackson, who served as Trump's White House doctor, tweeted during the speech, Mr. Biden, you are the commander-in-chief. Stop blaming Trump for your failures. You failed as a president, and you need to resign. Biden has repeatedly cited his predecessor in multiple statements and speeches, and Trump has issued a flurry of statements the past couple of days, going as far as arguing that it's time for the president to resign in disgrace. Biden officials have attempted to make the argument that the administration was handcuffed by the agreement with the Taliban signed by President Trump in Qatar back in February of 2020, which included a U.S. pledge to remove troops from Afghanistan. I bear responsibility for, fundamentally, all that's happened of late, Biden said last week. But you know, as well as I do, that the former president made a deal with the Taliban to get all American forces out of Afghanistan by May 1st. But Biden can go only as far in claiming that agreement boxed him in. It had an escape clause. The U.S. could have withdrawn from the accord if Afghanistan peace talks failed. They did fail, Joe. But Biden chose to stay in the agreement. Although he delayed the complete pullout from May until August 31st, Chris Miller, acting defense secretary in the final moments of the Trump administration, chaffed that the idea that Biden was handcuffed by the agreement is laughable. If he thought the deal was bad, he could have renegotiated. Or how about this? How about not negotiate with terrorists? I do believe that's been the standing policy of the United States of America since way before I was brought on planet Earth by God. We do not negotiate with terrorists. But we did under the Trump administration. I admit it. And then Biden stuck to those words as if they were the gospel. If he thought the deal was bad, he could have renegotiated. He had plenty of opportunity to do so if he desired. Miller, a top Pentagon counterterrorism official at the time the deal was signed, told the Associated Press in an interview. Renegotiating, though, would have been difficult. Biden would have had little leverage. He, like Trump, wanted U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. Pulling out of the agreement might have forced him to send thousands more back in. U.S. officials made it clear at the time that the agreement was condition-based, and the failure of intra-Afghan peace talks to reach a negotiated settlement would have nullified the requirement to withdraw. One day before the deal, a top aide to U.S. negotiator Zalmay Khalilzad said the agreement was not irreversible, and there is no obligation for the United States to withdraw troops if the Afghan parties are unable to reach agreement or if the Taliban showed bad faith during negotiations. Biden has publicly stated that he would have removed all troops from Afghanistan even if Trump had not made the agreement. Trump addressed critics of his plan in a radio interview with Hugh Hewitt last week and said that the Taliban attack on U.S. troops in March would have caused him to end the agreement and strike the Taliban. Trump said, "We would not have stood for any soldier or any American being killed or shot or hurt in any way." That was there. And Hugh, for 18 months, not one American soldier was killed. Not one. 18 months. And that was because of the agreement, Trump added. It was condition-based. Now, there were many other parts of the agreement also. And if they had violated them, we would have went in and bombed the hell out of them, and then they never would have come to Kabul. Sounds to me like a something a leader should say. Look, I don't give two shits what Trump did or did not agree with when it comes to terrorists. For you, Joe Biden, and your administration and the Joint Chiefs of Staff to say that, oh, we had to do this because Trump made this agreement, that's just your way of shifting blame for how it went down. And that's sad. That's not a leader. In fact, that's weakness. It's cowardness. To leave Americans behind and our Afghan partners behind to be slaughtered by the Taliban and now ISIS that's moved in there, or what they call ISIS-K now. What an absolute shit show this has become. And it didn't have to happen. I recently did a video about a true American patriot, a Marine Lieutenant Colonel, and I've spoken about him in my last show. You're not going to believe this next story. A U.S. Marine officer who was relieved of his command for breaking rank and calling out the brass over the chaotic and deadly evacuation of American troops from Afghanistan, in which 13 service members were killed, said Monday that he was ordered to undergo mental health screening. He's guilty of saying that his commanders should be held responsible, because that's what leaders are supposed to do. If you fuck something up, you step up and you claim it. You own it. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller was fired after posting a video on social media where he criticized military leaders over the botched exit. In the footage, the 17-year Marine, just 3 years shy of a full pension, said he took leaders to task. I'm not saying we need to be in Afghanistan forever, but I am saying, did any of you throw your rank on the table and say, hey, it's a bad idea to evacuate Bagram Airfield, a strategic air base, before we evacuate anyone? Scheller said Thursday, did anyone do that? And when you didn't do that, did anyone raise their hand and say, we completely messed this up? Well, we all know the answer to that. No. No one's taken responsibility. They're all passing the buck to Donald Trump. An online post Monday, Lieutenant Colonel Scheller said his commanding officer ordered him to go to a hospital for a mental health screening. He said he was evaluated by a mental health specialist and then sent on my way. Though he understood the order, Scheller questioned why some leaders excuse the actions of military members because of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, saying it does more damage than any trauma in combat. He also noted that he has been in very traumatic combat situations himself. But because of that, I am stronger, he wrote. Post-traumatic growth. If you're worried about someone, you should reach out and check on them, but never excuse a service member's action with a wave of the hand to PTSD. You are crippling them by failing to hold them accountable. He also said greater accountability from senior military leaders would go a long way, alleviating shame or guilt in service members. He cited a May 6th statement from Defense Secretary Anthony Lloyd Austin, in which he cited COVID-19 as the most immediate threat to the Department of Defense. Scheller cited the 2020 National Veteran Suicide Prevention Annual Report released by the Department of Veterans Affairs that revealed that more than 6,000 veterans took their lives in 2018. The report said there was an average of 17.6 veteran suicides per day that year. He also apologized if his initial video scared anyone. He noted that he wasn't going anywhere and is scared of his upcoming retirement. Everyone is scared that the way of the system is crashing down on me. But I know something you don't. It's the system that's going to break, not me. I am moving forward with my resignation. I, like many of you, am very scared, he added. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the ability to overcome it. At the end of the day, if I stand with accountability and integrity, the system can't beat me. In a follow-up video posted online Sunday, Lieutenant Colonel Scheller said he thinks the plan was for the military to let him serve out his remaining 3 years before he could retire. I'm resigning my commission as a United States Marine effective now. I'm sure there's some Marine administrative message, admin, on how I'm supposed to do that, and I'll work through that. But I have forfeited my retirement, all entitlements. I don't want a single dollar. I don't want any money from the VA. All I ask for is accountability from my senior leaders. When there are clear, obvious mistakes that were made, I'm not saying we can take back what has been done. So, God, I don't even know where to start with this. Lieutenant Colonel, I've already said it once, I'll say it again. You are a true American patriot. Not only in my eyes, but the eyes of all the men and women that served under you, all those that serve in the United States military that are aware of what you have said in your videos. They look up to you, sir. That's the feedback I'm getting. And I know that veterans all across this country are proud to know that someone in leadership stood up to these incompetent bastards in Washington, D.C. to say what needed to be said. Now, I'm not one that's politically correct, and for those of you that follow me on a regular basis, you know that. I try to watch what comes out of my mouth and keep it clean from time to time. But as someone that has literally been to the depths of hell, that served 4 combat tours in the United States military, plus my law enforcement experience, I welcome with open arms someone like this Lieutenant Colonel to stand up to these incompetent, once again, bastards. Because that's exactly what they are. How in the hell any of them can look at themselves in the mirror or sleep well at night knowing how bad they fucked this up? That's just unhuman. It really is. Shifting gears just a little bit, but on the same subject, I've done videos in the past about real-time host Bill Maher and how much I dislike his far-left liberal bullshit that comes out of his mouth. But something's happening with Bill Maher. This clusterfuck in Afghanistan sent a light off in his head. Real-time host Bill Maher received some unlikely praise from Fox News host Brian Kilmeade and former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee after the late-night host scolded the woke left's response to the turmoil in Afghanistan. Blind hatred of America is just as blinkered as blind love, Maher said in his monologue last Friday night. And we Americans should really get some perspective about where we live. Watching this shit go down in Afghanistan, I was reminded lately of every conversation I've ever had with an immigrant, almost all of which, if we go to really talking, included the notion, oh, you people have no idea. All you do is bitch about and badmouth your own country. But if you knew about the country I came from, you'd stop shitting on your own. Damn. That's Bill Maher. And good gosh, is it good to hear something like that from a far-left liberal. Kilmeade and Huckabee saluted the refreshing perspective from the liberal commentator on the Brian Kilmeade show and thanked Maher for his love and appreciation of America. Thank God for him, Huckabee said on his radio program. And I know he doesn't believe in God, but I'll thank God for him anyway. Finally, some sanity, Kilmeade added. Maher poked fun at Republicans for being overly sentimental when it comes to patriotism and over-romancing America, but blasted liberals for under-romancing America and accused them of having no perspective. If you think America is irredeemable, turn on the news or get a passport and a ticket on one of those sketchy airlines that puts its web address on the plane, Maher said. There's a reason Afghan mothers are handing their babies to us, and we should take them. Americans right now should take in Afghan refugees into their homes and into their neighborhoods. Huckabee called Maher's defense of America more than he's heard from most conservative speakers in the last 10 years. And I couldn't agree more. I'm glad that someone on the other side of the aisle can appreciate that America is exceptional, wonderful, amazing country that we ought to every day with tears in our eyes get on our knees, not to protest the flag or the national anthem, but to thank God it's standing there. It's time for all Americans, from the what I would call the center left and from the right, to stand up in unison. Tell these people from the far left wacky world, we are sick of the stuff you guys put on us. You're not representing the best of America. Hamid encouraged listeners to listen to his recent monologue from the left-wing liberal who can't recognize left-wing liberals. He sounded like a normal American with different views on politics, Kameen said. Not what we're seeing now. People who hate America and despise this country and want to get into education at a level and change our history, and doing so, which we all know is happening from kindergarten through college. Retired Navy aviator Brett Odom, who is helping American evacuate Afghanistan, said on Monday that people were denied entry by the Taliban into the airport. I worked for a family last night for about 8 hours, he said. That video was from the family. They've been trying to get out. They've been trying to get into the back gate, the south gate at the airport. It was the only one open yesterday. Everything was welded shut, and they had been turned back by the Taliban multiple times. They had been beaten. They were scared. They were terrified, and we could not get them out last night. He was on Fox and Friends, where he shared this information. Odom's comments came after a video reportedly showing Americans being denied. Odom described the contact with his family last as a heroic effort. He added, informational networks of people will pop up to help. We had them moving through the checkpoints. They could not get into the gate. The gates were closed. They were outside waving their passports. We were telling them to scream that I'm an American. I need to get on this airplane. And no one let them in. And now we're heard that went all the way up to the top of the military leadership. About 350 American citizens are still trying to leave Afghanistan in the final days of the U.S. withdrawal effort that's been marred by a deadly terrorist attack and the Taliban takeover. The State Department spokesman said at least 5,400 Americans have been safely evacuated as of August 14th, including nearly 300 U.S. citizens within the last day. But another 350 Americans remain in Afghanistan and have informed the State Department they want to get out. The State Department said they are providing assistance around the clock to these citizens to be evacuated. How in the fuck are you going to do that? We no longer have boots on the ground. We have nothing. What are you going to do that's going to get these Americans and our Afghan partners and their families to safety? You going to go in there yourself and do it? How do we do this? The flights out of Kabul International Airport have continued into the wake of the terrorist attacks, and then 13 American service members were killed. Their deaths mark a painful end to a 20-year war that already claimed more than 2,400 military lives. Odom responded to the U.S. Ambassador Rolf Wilson's tweet addressing the false claim that Americans stranded in Afghanistan are being denied access to the international airport by embassy staff or U.S. forces. Odom pushed back on Wilson's tweet, claiming that his statement was false since the Taliban is not letting people through. Well, as of about 3 o'clock Eastern time this morning, it was definitely false, Odom said. I have a family of 4 that were outside the gate. We were networking furiously. Every channel that we knew. Some with folks had channels into Sitcom and other operations, and these folks were not allowed on the base. The base is shut down. So there is Americans who are being left behind. And as we know now, many, hundreds. Currently, I believe the State Department says that there's about 300, not to mention those that wanted to get out that helped us fight the Taliban. I want to share something with you from Senator Tom Cotton. So for the last 2 weeks, my office, like so many congressional offices, was focused on trying to get American citizens out of Afghanistan. Joe Biden broke that promise. He promised the Taliban would be out by August 31st. He promised the Americans in Afghanistan he'd stay to get them out. He kept his promise to the Taliban, and he broke his promise to Americans. Now all the troops are out of Afghanistan. It is the time to demand answers, to hold accountability all the officials who created this terrible condition that we're seeing in Afghanistan over the past several weeks. Some of these things are very simple questions with knowable answers. But what did the military recommend to Joe Biden about Bagram Air Base? Who decided to close Bagram Air Base? What was the troop numbers that were capped at the end that led to the closing of the base? There's a lot of very simple but critical questions to be asked, and questions are knowable, some of them. They're sitting on a piece of paper somewhere in the Pentagon or the White House. Well, or let me add that Joe Biden may have used it to wipe his ass with, like he does the Constitution. And it's time for Congress to demand those answers in the weeks ahead. It's also time, as you say, to ensure that we are conducting rigorous oversight of the settlement of refugees in the country. Now, pay close attention to this next part of the statement. Look, we want to protect and welcome those Afghans who served alongside our service members. We've heard from so many people in the office, service members and veterans, who vouch personally for their translator or their interpreter. But we evacuated more than 125,000 Afghans at last count. Many of these had very little, if any, connection to these service members over the past 20 years. Look, I'm glad they're out of the Taliban's grip, but they have to qualify under American law before we admit them into this country. They cannot be a threat to this country, and like how the Trump administration kept many Syrian refugees in Jordan, leveraging our relationship there, it's probably what we're going to need to do with most of these Afghan refugees in places like Qatar, Turkey, or other Middle Eastern countries. And we already know, because the FBI has admitted it, that there are many terrorist cells right here in America. And that's been going on since 9/11. Every now and then, they bust one. And sadly, the news media puts it on like page 10 in small print next to something that's irrelevant like the NFL. What do you think is going to happen now? Well, I am 100% for bringing to America those that supported our mission. We need to make sure that those that didn't support our mission, that have chanted death to America in the past, are not allowed into our country. Think about this for one moment. Recently, at Pensacola Naval Air Station, as well as Corpus Christi Naval Air Station, and I've done videos on them as well, we had Afghans that were in the military over here being trained by our military personnel to fly airplanes, the ones that we left behind. And we had some that were terrorists that killed American service members on their bases. We also have a bunch that went AWOL, and they're somewhere in America and we don't know where. Sadly, there's going to be another 9/11. And sadly, more Americans are going to die right here. Will it come from those that are already here, or those that are going to be brought here in the coming days, weeks, months, and maybe years? Or will it be orchestrated in the same shithole country that bin Laden formed his force for 9/11? One of the things about fighting them over there is it keeps them from coming over here unless we bring them here, as what happened at Pensacola Naval Air Station and Corpus Christi Naval Air Station. We have a serious problem about repeating history, destroying things. For instance, Confederate statues. It doesn't matter what you think of the Civil War. That's irrelevant. What matters is that future generations learn from what happened during the Civil War. And we're no longer even teaching that. But we're taking down these statues all across America. And even things that are as stupid as a fucking rock. That's right. I did a video on that. A freaking big ass boulder. It was at a college, university here in America, that had to be removed because, at the time this rock was dedicated as a monument, it just so happened to be the time of slavery. I wouldn't doubt it one bit if in the very near future we see the plantation homes that are museums here in the South be shut down or torched. They're already saying that Stone Mountain in Georgia needs to be blown up, destroyed. That's how ignorant they are. As I started this program, I'll say this again. To all my brothers and sisters that I served with, and those that served under me when I was a non-commissioned officer, those that I've never met, and especially those that served in Afghanistan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that we let you down. And when I say we, I'm talking about the current administration. I'm talking about the Joint Chiefs of Staff, 4-star generals that have been in the military for 25, 30 years and have forgotten their soul along the way. A good friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, or me and Marilyn's, shared something with me today that I wanted to share with you. She said she saw a bumper sticker on a car in front of her that said, "Pray for Biden, Palms 109.8." And that didn't ring a bell right away, so when she got home, she looked it up in her Bible. And what does 109.8 say? It says, "Let his days be few and brief, and let others step forward to replace him." So, what to most would sound like somebody that is supporting Biden actually was trying to get the point across that you need to look at the Bible. You need to be aware of what it says. And furthermore, without God, we have nothing. Absolutely nothing. And the left and the Democrats are hell-bent on doing everything in their power to take God out of everything that we do as Americans. Regardless of the fact that our forefathers, our founding fathers, built this great nation as one under God. Were there mistakes made? Oh, you bet your ass there were mistakes made through history. We know what they were. But those that stood fast and kept God in the forefront of what they did and how they did it came out victorious in the end. I have served with some of the bravest men and women that you could ever possibly imagine. And together we've seen the very best of humanity and the very most evil of humanity. I've served with some people that were atheists. But when things got really, really bad in a foreign country, when you don't know if you're going to be alive in the next minute, even they took the time to ask those that had Bibles how to pray. Are there some atheists out there in the military that didn't and could care less? Of course. But for the most part, without God, we have nothing. Without a powerful, supported military, we have nothing. If we can't keep the terrorists at bay in foreign countries, they come here. I assure you, anyone that's watching this show, that those evil ones, members of the Taliban and ISIS, for instance, they interpret the Quran in a way that says death to America. They don't care what your religious beliefs are. They don't care what your race is. They don't care what your sex is. If you're an American, they just want your head removed from your body. And sadly, because of this administration and because of these Joint Chiefs of Staff, that will continue to happen. And it will happen again right here in our homeland. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications. Go over to DouglasDucote.com, my website, to learn more about me and to see videos that I can't put on social media because, it's not politically correct. And as always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military. We salute you. Our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, and our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America more now than at any time, I believe, or at least in my lifetime, is needed. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you for joining the show. Remember, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central Time. And if for some reason I can't do the show, I'll put it out in the community section or on Facebook. Facebook, you can follow the Douglas Ducote Show and also American Patriot by the Grace of God. Other things to look for in the description of this when it gets posted as a regular video in about 15 minutes from now is the other locations you can find me on. Rumble is one of them that I'm starting to build. If you're on Rumble, go there and please subscribe. And if you're not on Rumble, I believe it's the future. And I definitely believe it's the future of the Douglas Ducote Show because I've about had all I can take of liberals, and that's who operate Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the likes. Thank you all. Have a great evening. God bless each and every one of you. And I'll see you again Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. God bless everyone.